Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. All praise be to Allah, the Lord of the worlds. Over 100 episodes, almost 40 different ethnic backgrounds, living in almost 30 different countries. In just 2 seasons, the Niqabi Diaries podcast has brought you the stories of Muslim women across the globe, women united in sisterhood by their commitment to the Deen of Islam. Welcome to Season 3 of the Niqabi Diaries podcast, where, inshallah, we will continue to bring you the stories of the women behind the veil. The Niqabi Diaries, our experiences, our perspectives, our voices. I'm your host, Samar, and thank you for listening. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another episode of the Niqabi Diary, Season 3. Alhamdulillah, we have another guest with us today, very special guest from another podcast, actually, the Make Hijra podcast. We have with us Sister Najla. Sister, could you please introduce yourself for the listeners and tell us about what you do, inshallah?
I'm on the Make Hijra team as a support person for Hajra sisters. Also, some community building. I'm a homemaker, student, and teacher. I embraced Islam in my early youth. Alhamdulillah, yes.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, inshallah. So if you could tell us how you started to wear the niqab, that would be great, inshallah.
I just I think I was 16, yeah, and was looking into it because at that time actually I was there was a great I was curious about it because I was very naturally shy, so I was kind of looking into the Islamic aspect of it, and there was a few sisters in my community who did wear it at that time. It was very few, very literally like 2 or 3. So I was like curious about it, but that kind of led me to look into it from the aspect of, you know, the evidences from the Quran and Sunnah. And I did put it on at that time for like, I think it was like a year or something. I can't remember now. But then I ended up taking it off. And so when I put it back on, it was like a few years later, that's when I put it on and didn't take it off. So it's been now over about 21 years since I've been wearing it consistently. Yeah. And I took it off because I was actually, it was a safety concern. It was like during the time of 911 going on in the States.
Nice.
And there was a lot of harassment. Actually, we had a lot of incidences, but one of my friends who was wearing the niqab, she was actually arrested for just something as simple as like a traffic ticket.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that they treated her was just like ridiculous. So it was like, you know, you don't really want to draw attention to yourself and, you know, make more issues, you know. Plus at that time I was also in school. Not a lot of Muslims in my school, like just a few, not a few, maybe a few.
Mm-hmm.
So even at that time I was a few, but I was only like sister who wore you know, scarf and jilbab at my high school and also in college. So it was a bit isolating, you know, and it actually drew more attention. So I didn't really like that type of situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I just like, okay, like if I do it again, inshallah I would, you know, be in a better position to see, like, you know, testing the room, if you know what I mean, like,
Yes, of course.
to see how, yeah, because especially when if you're by yourself. I was married, but during, like, we wasn't in school together, and also had small children. So it was like very difficult if I'm, driving alone, or especially in our environment. We live in a urban society
Mm-hmm.
and inner city, and sometimes people don't necessarily bother you as far as what you want to do, but they try more to, talk to you and, find out, like, what are you doing, and they just want to know what you're doing, which is not a problem, but it started to just become. I didn't like the attention, that it brought. But alhamdulillah, after we moved to Egypt, I still didn't wear it till after a few months after I got there. And some people might think, oh, because some Muslim society might be easier to do or something like that. But I didn't necessarily feel that way, because I didn't base it on, like, the society. Because if I did, I don't think it would be easier, because it's a lot of, it's some people who don't really appreciate it there either, so it's just that you have to know what you're going to do, your intention, and just do it, regardless of the society. Even amongst the Muslims, it was an issue, because they didn't see it that much, at least in our Muslim community in the States. It wasn't that many, and it also was looked at as something extreme to do.
So what would so mashallah, you've mentioned a lot there. I wanted to ask you, so from that early period when you started wearing the niqab in the States, and then moving to Egypt, like, what would you say you think the main difference was between wearing the niqab in both of those countries, like, from your experience?
I think the main difference in a Muslim society is that even if there's people who don't like it, which again, it's not really my concern about, who likes it or who doesn't like it, or, but it's still, even people who don't like it, they understand it's from Islam, so they can't exactly reject, reject it on a basis, on a basic foundation. They can't reject it. But also, you have plenty more, sister. It's normal. They see it, and it's like, it's normal to them, even if they don't wear it. They see it, and it's like, it's pretty common. It depends where you live, but it's pretty common. But what's not common too much is, like, what some of the society might be confused as to why why you, like, from the West and you're doing this, or
Yes.
why did you choose to do it? Because you come, maybe you're just wearing it because you live there, but they don't understand, sometimes it actually, no, we dress like Muslims in the West too,
Basically, yeah.
so it's not strange, it's not strange for us. But so that was the main thing, is that the society is not attacking, anything about it because it's something from Islam.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned as well, like, the time that the first time you put the niqab on, it was around, kind of the 9/11 period. Apart from that, did you have any kind of negative pushback from your family members, or, like, anybody, like, close relatives, about wearing the niqab?
Yes, of course, yes, definitely. I have some members of my immediate family who are Muslim. Alhamdulillah, they also, like, embraced Islam. Some of my immediate family later on in life, and then the Muslim family was very, like, just I think they were just scared. They were just afraid for safety concerns. People may attack you, or do stuff, like, when you're just around, going to the store or living your regular life outside. Even if you don't spend too much time outside, you still have things to take care of. Even if your husband is at work or something, you still have still have things to do. So they were concerned about that. My non-Muslim family, which is the majority, they were mostly on the this is weird and strange and it's against everything that they believe in, and what's kind of not like what's wrong with you, but like probably you get over that phase or whatever
Yes,
when you
yes. Mm-hmm.
when you like, because I was young, so it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, she's probably just that's probably gonna last for a little bit, but it didn't. So
Yeah.
here we are. So alhamdulillah, they just have to, they accept the fact that um it didn't change. So
Mm-hmm.
alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. So you traveled to Egypt after, like, so you put the niqab and then you took it off and then you traveled to Egypt, and then after being in Egypt for a while you started wearing the niqab again. So would you say that obviously being in a Muslim country, it was like that it was easier for you to actually put the niqab on, and you felt secure that you could just do that? Like, what did you had a personal desire to wear the niqab yourself that time as well? You felt that, yeah, this was the time that you could just do it?
Yeah, I just felt like it was a lot of contributing factors for that. I really didn't feel comfortable. I noticed that. Okay, so I have to back up a little bit. We traveled with another friend. I have a close friend and her family. So at that time, she actually wore niqab and I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
When we actually traveled there, so I saw the difference in how she was being treated at the airport and in the society versus how I was. So at the airport, there was a lot of irritation as far as from coming from the States to Egypt, but actually not in Egypt, coming through the airport. But then in the society, because we went to school together and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Every time we would go out, and mind you, we went out with. It wasn't like we went out just only by ourselves. Like we would try to go out with one of our husbands, our kids.
Mm-hmm.
And um, just the air, the energy around the men and some of the women from when versus when you have it on or when you don't. It was just very different. So it was in some cases a little bit more respectful, in some cases more disrespectful, to be honest. But I just didn't like, again, like I was just like, because there was so many people there, I wasn't used to a city where it's like, millions of people. I didn't come from that. So just to see droves
Nice.
and droves of just people, a lack of personal space, just culture wise.
Yes.
I just didn't feel comfortable just even like going outside and just everyone, it felt like, being in my face. It was just
Yes.
uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So even just people in general, men and women, it was just very, very uncomfortable. It's like, let me just make it easier for me to mind my business.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And also, like I said, with the evidences and stuff I had read before, I was very sure about, you know, why am I doing it?
Yes.
So it was easier in that way because it's just like, okay, this is really overwhelming for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's just easier to like put some kind of barrier, between all the people and all of that. So that was another factor that had to do with it.
Okay, so you mentioned there that, like, the niqab as being a barrier. So what would you say that, in your experience, what was the difference that you personally felt when you started wearing the niqab versus before you was wearing it in Egypt?
Uh, less, less. I would say less, not totally no, right? But
Mm-hmm.
it's just less. You know, how do you say? You're less susceptible or less vulnerable
Mm-hmm.
to random men, coming up to try to talk to you and trying to um, find out about you. Whereas in the States, it was kind of strange. It was like the other way around. Honestly, that's what I saw. It was that between the non-Muslim men and the Muslim men, the brothers, they would be more, you know, like they would lower their gaze more.
Yeah.
But the non-Muslim men, sometimes, that's what I experienced, they would be more intrigued. You know, like, what do you have on under there? Oh, it's more, you know, they were more curious and, you know, trying to, it was more sexualized, basically. Yeah. And then I found that in comparison to Muslim society, you do have the men who sexualize it in Muslim countries, but it's less, you know, than what you would find, at least from my experience in the States.
SubhanAllah. It's really interesting. So alhamdulillah, so did you feel that it's still more secure in wearing the niqab than in Egypt than not?
Yes, definitely. It reduces a lot. You know, again, like I said, I wouldn't say it's like it completely removes any kind of, you know, like drama and fitna and stuff, but it's definitely, I think it reduces a lot of, it reduces a lot.
So what would you say, like, because you know, for people who never been to Egypt, or even for maybe some non-Muslims who, you know, might think of Egypt as a Muslim country, and you know, like when we as women decide to wear the niqab, people, like most people, automatically think that we're wearing it because our husbands have forced us to wear it or something like that, not from our own choice. And not only that, but obviously living in a Muslim country, you know, they, like, some people wouldn't expect that, you know, even if you're wearing a niqab, that it's something that's being kind of you still get pursued by men maybe. And I know one of the experiences that I had, actually, it wasn't like me personally, but when I first became Muslim, I remember that some sisters living in the south of London, they did used to say that you know, even being dressed head to foot in black, they like, and you know, face covered and everything, it didn't deter some men, because they just like, you know, they just decided that they wanted to, you know, basically. So I mean, in a non-Muslim country, at least from non-Muslims, you could understand to some extent, but for Muslim men in a Muslim country and they're not doing it, you know, what would you say about that?
Yeah, I would say, like, in the States, the men were more, you know, you had the ones who sexualized it, then you had the ones who, more of them who were scared of you. You know, they were just scared. Like, what is this? You know, like, why would they? If, you know, we're women, but of course we can. There's something, we're not men, but we can see something, especially as you mature. You can see, okay, all right, if I have a choice, right, between looking at a woman who is, you know, wearing a bra and panties outside, and somebody who's like, I really can't really, I can see, but I have to look hard, right? I have to look harder. Then what's easier to look at? You know, but as far as respect wise, they look at that different. You know, like, okay, maybe they respect the person more who has some modesty with them. But in the Muslim countries, I see, because they know that I don't want to say in general, they know that some sisters who are covered have a bit more modesty with them, so they take it as like they're vulnerable, and that they're easier to attack, or to be, you know, if they're perverts, they are, you know, you can't really, you know, Allah talks about that. So if they have a disease in their heart, then, you know, you can't control that. You have no responsibility towards what you wear over somebody who is sick. Okay, but if when you see Muslim men who don't really, you know, kind of like who try to like harass the women and stuff like this, yeah, they see it as a somewhat, because it's a harder target, is more of a thrill or something, like an adventure.
Yeah, like a challenge. They want the challenge.
Yeah. So unfortunately, you do have that, but it's still, I would say, still it's still a reduction.
Yes.
And them between that and a sister who doesn't like wear hijab or something, and she wearing tight clothes and stuff like that, it's still different the way even they look in it and approach, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if there's a man with her, or you know.
Of course, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's interesting. Like, I like to talk about these things because obviously, you know, there's often, like, you know, conversations with sisters where they say, well, oh, a man's supposed to lower his gaze, and obviously, yes, definitely, the men are supposed to lower their gaze. But you know, when you've done your responsibility from your side in helping them to be able to do that, if they then decide that they're not going to you know, fulfill their side of Allah's commands, then there's no sin on you. You've done your bit,
Right.
because
Exactly.
as Muslims, we're supposed to work together as a community. So it's not just, oh, well, I just think about myself and what I want. It's about, you're trying to do what is best for the community as well. So that's part of what we're doing, because sometimes, you know, sisters will say, oh, well, you say you wear the niqab for your own choice and because, you know, you want to wear it, not because you've been made to wear it, not because of men. So why don't you wear it when you're in the shower, for example, they'll say. And I said, well, no, because the command is about,
it's not for the shower. Right.
you know,
Not
it
for
is about
the
interaction. You know,
right.
it is addressing interaction between male and female, and it's trying to, you know, bring some kind of decorum when it comes to you know, these kind of interactions, and you know, like boundaries, basically.
Right. And you still have to protect yourself regardless.
Exactly.
You know, it's very naive to think, okay, because also I lived in other Muslim countries as well. It's not that uh, you're absolved of being, of basically having like street smarts and protecting yourself anyway, regardless of wherever you are. You know, as a woman, you just, the way it is that we are um, more susceptible to different harms and stuff like this in the society. You know, so you have to be just aware of that, regardless of what you wear. I think that's the thing. Like, okay, if you're covered properly and you don't wear niqab, you still shouldn't walk around thinking like, okay, because I have you know, I have jilbab and hijab on, that nobody's gonna possibly try anything or look at me a certain way. Unfortunately, that's what it is, you know.
Exactly.
But in general, it's more of it's a lesser chance, you know. It's a lesser chance because you're not the easiest you know, the easiest prey out there,
Of course,
you
yes,
know.
definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, alhamdulillah. So in your time living in different countries, have you had any experience working at all with the niqab?
Okay, working. Okay, that's an interesting one. Um, the jobs that I had, even in the States, like they were all, if you want to say like entrepreneurial, you know, self-employment type of things. So I used to, I catered food for a long time, like did private food catering,
Yeah.
babysat, you know, then child care, uh, teaching, what else? Community work. So it wasn't necessarily, you know, like working for somebody, especially I really never worked for like, you know, basically like non-Muslims. So except for like, yeah, I had some couple online jobs like that. But I mean, if you mean like, I kind of I think you mean like outside in the society, like as a, I don't know what, like I don't know,
Well, just anything
like
really. What's
a
your general?
nurse or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, your general
Okay.
experience
Okay.
working
Yeah.
before
All
you
of those
working.
things is kind of, yeah. Yeah. This is like, yeah, these are like those type of jobs. So I don't know what you got, but yeah, those things. I always, because I was always around other, you know, sisters, other Muslims. It really was like it wasn't a big deal. Only time it was kind of a big deal was when, you know, when you're dealing with sometimes sister to sister interactions, you know,
Right.
where sometimes people who who like don't want you, who don't really like niqab and stuff like this, who
Mhm.
happen to be Muslim, they have, negative comments, and it's like verbal assaults, and you're just like, okay, like
Oh my lord.
one time in the States, it was so funny because um it was just, to me it was hilarious, but the sister was so serious, and the sentiment was basically like, it's sooner to smile, sister, don't you know that? you know
Wow.
I was like, wow, yeah, we do know this, and you can still smile with the niqab on.
Exactly.
But it's like not for everybody to see, but um so it's just stuff like that, like, oh, you don't have to wear it,
Mhm.
like, just like people thinking that you think you're better, or even regardless of them ever saying and sitting down with you to talk with you, and just having that, preconceived notion, oh well, she thinks she's better because she wears niqab
Mhm.
or whatever. Like, nobody said all of that,
Yeah.
I don't personally think I even exude that. It's just that if you feel like you're less than, then you might have a inferiority complex,
Of course.
because that's something that, like, we in general, I'm gonna say this though, I don't really see too many, just what I see. I'm not, I'm just speaking on my personal experience. I don't see as much like sisters in niqab going around telling the hijabi sisters, like, why you wearing hijab? You need to wear niqab. Like,
Exactly.
why don't you wear, but like, I don't go around telling them that. I don't
Mhm.
even see any difference, because to me, like, if you're dressed properly, that's your business. And
Mhm.
if you're not, that's your business, And um, I don't think about it every day, like when I go outside, like I'm wearing niqab. I don't think about it. So if you come to me and you say that, it's like, obviously you feel a way about what you're looking like.
Exactly.
So you need to you need to focus on why that is, not me. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
look into it, inshallah.
Totally. Like I totally agree. I've had instances where sisters have gone out of their way to just tell me that I don't need to wear the niqab, and I just think like
Right.
it's not your business. You know.
Yeah, like, I don't pick your clothes for you. Like, I'm sorry, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Subhanallah.
that's you, that's between you and Allah, just like my decision was between me and Allah. It's not between me, you, and you know what I'm saying? So,
Exactly.
you know it's not really a big deal. I think sometimes we make it a bigger issue than it is.
Mhm.
Like, I think it's in the Muslim community that one of the top topic is like niqab for the past like 30 years. Like, when is that never gonna stop becoming a trending like topic? It's like, it's personal. So
Yeah.
I don't know. There's sometimes people take it as political statements and stuff like this, where it's really, it shouldn't be, or it's not. You know, so that's something I really like. I really like that. But in general, no. When we interacting with and working and stuff like that, um, is that it's just those tiny things. It has to do with, other Muslims, sisters, like you know, uh, their their ideas.
Yes. Yes. So, would you say, have you had any kind of physical abuse ever for wearing the niqab, or severe abuse of any kind for wearing it, like even verbal?
Only a couple of times. That was like in the States. I was in a grocery store, and a man was basically following me around the aisles, telling me that I was a baby killer.
Wow.
Mind you, this was the time of 911, so
Mm-hmm.
you know, and so like I was just like, well, if you have something to say, you can say it to me, and you can say it to my husband, So
Yeah.
obviously he didn't know how to talk after like he said all this, and there's a man involved. He's like, he doesn't even know what he was saying or whatever. um but yeah, as far and then as the I was like, we were kind of harassed at the mall. There was a couple sisters also who were in the niqab, and we were together. So just a man, calling, like, trying to I don't know the other, what's the, I don't know the standard word for like trying to holler at his sister, trying to like, I don't know, you know what I'm saying? But like very aggressive with it, like,
Yes. Yeah.
oh, let me see what you got on under there, this
Wow.
kind of stuff, and
SubhanAllah.
kind of following us around and, you know, but it wasn't, I, I mean, it could escalate, but it's like, okay, Allah Mustaan, like you're not doing nothing wrong by wearing the niqab. So, Allah protects you, and you just, again, you have to be aware of what's around you.
Mm-hmm. Alhamdulillah. So what about your traveling experiences since being a Niqabi? You said you've lived in different Muslim countries. What's your traveling experiences been like?
In general, they've been the same, except for one place. That was kind of, it was a weird. It was a lot of scrutiny. This one country we went to.
Was it
Like
a Muslim country?
Yeah, but it's Kazakhstan. I know people are like, why was you there? But that's a whole nother video somewhere.
I knew a sister that was from there, and she told me like that even hijab, it's like you can't, you can't even really wear hijab there.
It's very well, people wear, the thing, what we that was only, I think it was last year or something. Because I also have a daughter who wears niqab, and then I have other, I have daughters-in-law who wear niqab. It was just very, it was just strange because coming to through the airport, there was a lot of like, I'm telling you, if you on the airplane, it's like only, I think we're the only people who even wear hijab. So it's like, that was strange. But it was kind of like, okay, whatever. But then in the society, like the people respected it. They just like kind of like, well, you do what you want to do. It wasn't like they attacked you, but it was just that you might feel very like strange. You might, because you just don't really see much of anybody who even wears a hijab. And then when you do, it's nothing like what you used to, like coming from like other Muslim countries, where it's more like, okay, you see like, jilbab, hijab, it's kind of like, I don't know what it is, like handkerchief and whatever, so it's like people are trying to still learn about their deen and like coming back to it, and they don't really harass you. I even noticed there was more respect there, but it was just like, they were just like amazed more than aggressive about it. It was just so it was like, wow, what is this?
Yeah, subhanAllah.
Yeah.
So did you get to interact with people to the level where they knew that you was coming, like that you were an American, basically?
Yeah, they all know because it wasn't that many of us there. So
right, okay.
It was very like spotlight. Everywhere you go, it's spotlight. Yeah, it was very, very I don't know the word for it. It was very yeah, like you're just always the thing of interest to people.
Yeah.
You're like, wow. Either it's like amazement, or it's like, okay, you must be Arab. But then it's like, no, we're not. So
yes, yeah, subhanAllah.
But why do we automatically have to be,
Yeah, that's the main one though. It's like you get people yell at you, oh, Saudi Arabia and things like that.
Yeah, you don't really see, with, I will say this, another sister had this perspective, and I really thought about it, because she had said that basically she was something that she didn't like about the niqab, that even though she loves the niqab and everything, is that she didn't really like that it doesn't show where we, like who we are as, for example, our culture, like we could be from anywhere. So especially like, if we have a little melanin, right, or a lot, it's already, from Africa. there's nothing wrong with being from Africa, but we're not from there, you know. Or if you're, if you have any if you just look like, if you have a you know, lighter skin complexion, okay, you must be Arab, but they could be from Europe or something else, and they're Muslim, you know. So it's like, it's just like people automatically put you in a category that they're trying to figure out where you're from. Okay, you're automatically this or that without asking you, you know. So that's, it's a little, you know, it's a little irritating, because then I think if people understood that they should like still, you can still identify like cultures and stuff like that without being offensive by assuming, you know. Or then you won't be as surprised when you hear English or whatever, you know. So they're just confused, you know. They're like, how do you speak English? And you know, they're just like, they don't know what you are, who you are, or whatever. So yeah, it's like that.
That's a really interesting take. I've never really thought about that, to be honest, but I don't know. I wouldn't say that I agree, because I think that once I think in my experience, like before I started wearing the niqab, for example, and I was just wearing hijab, people didn't think I was a revert because I was black. So living in the UK, they just assumed that I'm just a Muslim, and you know, I'm a Muslim that lives in the UK, and my family must be, they thought I was Sudanese, they thought I was Nigerian, they thought I was all manner of countries. So, and I wasn't any of those things, but I've always found that when you're black, you just get identified as being whatever country, you know, maybe whoever you're communicating with. If they're from a particular place and you have a particular look, they associate with you with that country that they think that you look like you're from. It's just simple as that. Like, well, because black people, we come in all shades, Arabs come in all shades, you know, so you can be either or. So I don't know. I don't think the niqab kind of, I don't think the niqab makes that more like difficult to tell the difference. I just think that it means that you need to talk to somebody to find out where they're from, rather than just look at them and assume, because you have to do that anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's
just like
literally almost impossible to tell, especially now. Like, we live in such a mixed climate. If us Muslims who's living in like for example, that's why, like, when I started talking to you, I can't assume that even as an African American that you must be a revert, because I know that there's a lot of African Americans who, you know, Islam's been in there in America for such a long time, that there's Muslims coming from, you know, how many generations, you know. So you can't just assume even an African American Muslim happens to have been a revert, you know what I mean? So it's having that kind of I don't know what you call it, cultural understanding of different cultures. But the more you mix with people, the more you kind of have that more broader like kind of take on it, I suppose.
Yeah, that's the thing about, that's what exactly your point about traveling, because when you go to some places and they may have never seen, you know, anybody from your people ever, then it's like, it's just like, if you become like a you know, I guess like an anomaly, you know. You're like, how, you know. So it's like that, you know. But you, when you see other places and you understand, like, we didn't have to explain ourselves. Like, when, for example, in Malaysia, the people seemed more traveled, if you want to say. So they kind of like, they didn't even ask us like, are you American? They can tell by our, you know, mannerisms, even though, you know, even though it's not like as Americans, but as Muslim American, or however you want to call it, they could tell, you know, some things like, okay, or they could see like, okay, maybe they thought we was Arab because this or that. And I understand that, because there's some things, you know, this just because of living in Arabic speaking country, like you have some, you know, you pick up some of the culture a little bit, you know, when you have the language and stuff like that. So it's just, I mean, I understand, like, so, but yeah, so yeah, you see that when you should travel around, you see, you know, you have to just give people that, uh, just give them some rahmah, you know, like they just don't know. They just don't know.
Yeah,
And
I
if
just
they
think
don't know,
it's
let them
always
know.
safer not to assume. Yeah, I think it's just always safer not to assume, and that's part of what it means to, like, you know, take time to actually get to know somebody. You know, if you're interested in knowing about someone, just ask them. That's the best thing, because you know, like it's like meeting a white person and assuming that they speak English. Most of us do that. If we're frank, most of us do that. So if you meet a white person and they don't speak English, it's almost like there's this level of perplexity that like happens. Like people are taken aback, but there's plenty of white people who don't speak a word of English.
Exactly. They have all types of different languages, and I think that's the part where you have to just you have to realize that there is a frustration, like when you don't have you know, like if you don't know their language.
Yeah.
You know, like you're trying to learn, and so like you can't even ask that. You know, it's hard to ask stuff where you can't really communicate because you don't know their language, or you're trying to learn and you're like, you know, you're still doing baby steps. That was a big issue there, like Kazakhstan, because they don't really speak English. So you have to, like, you know, you see the body language and stuff, and you're trying to communicate, and you know, you still can communicate without always speaking, like, you know, it's like your manners and stuff like that. You know, just trying to be patient with people.
What's the weather like in Kazakhstan, by the way, just out of curiosity? Is it cold? I assume that it's
the area where we were at was I believe it came up as one of the top, like, it's within the first top 3 or 5 coldest places in the world. We didn't know.
Wow.
We didn't really know that until we went through it, and that's like one of the contributing factors to why we just couldn't do it. It was very extremely bitterly frigid without I was just like, subhanallah, like this is this is subhanallah, you know?
It's a test, subhanallah.
Yeah. Yes, I'm in Turkey now. I think some people may not know or something, you know, I don't know. It doesn't, this point doesn't matter. But yeah, we've been here like less than a year. So
okay, so how is Turkey? I know everybody,
everywhere is different. Yeah, if you can,
everybody's like, I know a lot of Muslim sisters who've moved to Turkey, and most of them are having really positive experiences. I think in general, there's obviously some challenges. I think.
Yeah, the thing is, yeah, everywhere has its things, you know, and it's so hard to like not compare and contrast other places where you lived, you know, but it's so easy to do. And I would say, like, the main thing is, you know, the way the world is right now, we cannot pick and choose, you know, what we want from each country and make it into one place. You can't get everything you want in one place. So that's obvious, like, you know, everything that you might find in other, there's some things that I like about here that does kind of remind me of a mixture of other countries we lived in. So in our city where we live, we don't live in Istanbul, so I can't really speak about that, but it's like the weather is mild. It's not cold, it's not hot. Even in the summer, it's not like cold and it's not hot. So it's like medium, you know, bearable. You know, you're not hot, like, you know, pouring sweat when you leave the house, but also you might need a jacket even if it's summer, you know. And the people have been very generous and helpful to us, respectful. Their language barrier is very real. Like you really need to learn the language.
Yeah.
I feel like it was easier for us to learn some of or to understand some of the things because they still speak with you even if they see that you don't know the language. It's because some of it they're derived from Arabic words, so, and some English words also, some kind of, you know, Latin languages. So you can, if you know English and you know Arabic, you can actually understand it easier. But it still takes a lot of you have to go out and interact every day because otherwise you'll be lost. Cost of living, I think for us, I have a large family. I would say huge. actually lower large. And
Allah
yeah, Egypt for us in comparison to Egypt, I think it's cheaper here
okay.
for higher quality. Yeah.
Okay.
I would say when I mean higher quality, so I'm not being disrespectful to Egypt. Now people don't come for, but I mean as far as like you get more for your actual rent. You know, like you might get you know, like furnished may not be. I'm sorry, unfurnished is not actually unfurnished how it is in Egypt. So you know how Egypt, you got the light bulb in the floor and the wall, you know, and you have to get everything else, like literally. But you can find a lot of places here where you have, where it's already, like you could kind of just move in and you just buy like the basic necessities, which actually some of the necessities are already there for you.
Yeah.
So, and you pay like less than like half of what you would pay for rent, and even in Egypt.
Okay,
the
mashallah,
food
that's
is
good.
almost the same. Yeah, and they have inflation. They started to have that,
Yeah,
but it's still not the same. Also, it's like less crowded where we live. It's not like a lot of like people and stuff, which we prefer. We prefer that, even though it's a city, it's still not as populated as Egypt. In comparison to Malaysia, we found that it was cheaper in Malaysia also than Egypt for the quality of living accommodations that you would get. You know, the cabs were more there. Here, I think cabs are yeah, expensive to ride in a cab, but you can also take public transportation, or you can just walk. You do a lot of walking. But yeah, in general, I think it's cheaper. I don't know about, I think schooling might be even cheaper than Egypt in some respects, but again, a language barrier. So that, but yeah, if you want to find, of course, like Arabic teachers and Quran and stuff like you want to find in the like Arabic speaking countries, it's not going to be as much, but you do have it because there's a lot of Syrians here. So
nice.
you know, you can easily, if you want that, you can find it.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
So I don't know. It's just a lot of, you know, it was easy to come through the airport. It was so easy. It was like extremely, like you just walked outside your house, like just,
Alhamdulillah.
subhanAllah, it was much easier. And yeah, you just, I think also you just, whatever place it is, you have to have or it helps. I don't want to say you have to, but it helps to have somebody from the country, you know, help you get around and learn things, you know, at least at the very least, you know, get to know the other muhajirs there so that you can have some kind of support system, because it's necessary. I believe that is necessary. And if you don't have one, make one, you know. So I think that was pretty much what I wanted.
That sounds amazing. So I was going to ask you as well about like food and stuff, you know, being African American, and obviously you've lived, you know, away from America for quite a long time. What do you say, like how have you kind of adapted food wise to, you know, certain things that, you know, you might have grown up having and really liking? Because that's one of the main things for most people when they move to other countries. The diet you don't diet automatically, like, you know, if you want to like really live like the people who will live there, and even especially if you know, on a budget, you have to adapt your living, like your foods, especially to, you know, what's available.
Yes, you know, I'm glad you asked. This wasn't on the script, by the way, you know.
No, it wasn't.
I'm glad it wasn't, but I did I love talking about this because I'm a food person.
Yeah, me
so
too.
Like, yeah, it's like when we came to Egypt, I was like, I made sure, because I did talk to some people who lived there before I came, and I was really specific about the food issue, because I'm like, you know, do I need to bring my equipment? You know, like, because I like to bake and stuff like that. Do I need to? I'm bringing my spices, you know.
Yeah.
But once I started to live there, and even it happens with all the countries too, by the way, it's like the first thing I do is go to the spice market. I'll
Yes,
find it
of course.
and just I get all this stuff, like, because I want it to at least taste like what I'm used to, you know. And the good thing about the Muslim world, alhamdulillah, is that, you know, a lot of stuff is natural. You can find pretty much all the basic ingredients. You know, like for example, if you wanted to make let's see, I would just say chicken, for example, because I don't know, just come to the easiest thing, like chicken, right? If you want to bake chicken, right, then, you know, you do how you used to doing, and you know, how you grew up, you know. um and alhamdulillah, I've never found a problem with it like not coming out. It might not come out the exact same. Sometimes it's better, sometimes because the ingredients may be, you know,
Better
fresher,
quality. Okay.
especially like, yeah, especially like baked goods, because the butter is like fresh, the eggs are fresh, everything, you know. um and it's like, but sometimes because of the environment, the climate, you know, it might not, you know, like for example, if you're not used to using like gas, uh
Okay.
the gas tanks, you know. Yeah,
Yeah.
like kind of like it was an adjustment for me, because it was like something scary. Like I know in the States we use them. Down south we don't really, from where I'm from up north, we don't really use them that much. But I do know about them, and I was always afraid of them because they can cause, you know, explosions and stuff, and we've seen it actually happen to people, and that was, you know, traumatizing. But you know, you just like, you get used to it. You know, learn how to be safe using them and stuff like that. Also there's natural gas in some places, so
Yeah.
but yeah, you can find all your in general, you can find like all the spices, that at least the base ones, not like blends, but I mean like
Yes.
the core, you know, you have to make your own
You
blends
make
and
your own
stuff like
blends, yeah,
that.
definitely.
Yeah, you know, they got hot pepper, they garlic, and you know, onions, that, you know, the basic thing. And you know, cookware, you might have to search a little bit harder to find, like for example, like maybe like cast iron ware, cookware. um I would say like also the quantities that the food comes in is usually smaller in the Muslim country. I don't know why. I guess because America has like, it's
Super sized
everything is
stuff.
oversized. Yeah, it's like, so we look at like a small thing of milk is, it's like 1 liter of milk is like a baby portion, you know. But you kind of get used to it. Like, okay, you know, you have to get like bigger. You have to buy more smaller things in order to make, or you try to find a wholesale market, so that you can make enough for your family. You know, um, they do have deep freezers and stuff like that for anybody who wants to do that. Or even when you're trying to do meal preparations, um, it might be hard to find like, you know, freezer bags and, you know, you know what I mean, like
It's kind of
Tupperware and stuff
convenient
like
stuff,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, you know, but they do have it. You have to look. You have to really look hard. Um, in some places it's easy to find, you know, it just depends. And you also, as far as eating locally, we have done that. um we do generally buy the same stuff the people from the land, you know, what they buy, but we just make it different. So I mean, like, if you don't I don't know how to say it. I guess if you don't really cook, maybe that's a major adjustment, because you know, you everything, it's not like packaged food, already
Yeah.
um already made food easily available, like at the grocery store and stuff like that. But then at the same time, you can't order out if you want to do that. You know, people do that too. um but it just might not be to their taste. Like here, I was already pre-warned that, you know, it's kind of like the taste buds are a bit, uh how do I say this, bland, you know. So like we had some Turkish people come for iftar and during Ramadan, and they were like, wow, they were
Really
trying to
hot.
say it in their Google Translate, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's got a lot of uh too much flavor for them, you know. Or even if it's a little bit of salt, it's kind of like too much.
Yeah, yeah.
So we kind of know, like, all right, you know, not that it's salty, but there's
Yeah,
just a
yeah.
little
For the
bit of
palate.
salt might help, you know what I mean? But that's just how we, you know, how
Mm-hmm.
we eat. So yeah, you just have to, like, actually we find a lot of similarities between here and Egypt as far as the food selection. They have the
Yes,
same
yes.
type of,
Hmm.
you can find the lentils, the beans, all the different types of beans,
Yeah.
all different types of rice, all like pastas and all that, all types of the vegetables, the same, tomatoes and
Hmm.
lots of different fruits and vegetables, so, go for what you like as far as, I would say shop and then like open markets, it's cheaper and as you get better quality from the farmers, and just make what eat what you like. You don't necessarily have to eat what the people eat,
Hmm.
but at least the base ingredients you should, because
Yeah.
if you're used to like eating like, I don't know what, steak and eggs and bacon and all that stuff, like Americans like
Hmm.
diet and burgers and fries like all the time and stuff like that, which is not healthy anyways, but it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
It might be a challenge unless you want to just make it all at home and just, but you still, it's not healthy. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, you want to just,
It's quite an
yeah,
adjustment. That's one of the like
yeah,
experience that I've been having since like coming to Ghana as well. I think it's the food, and yeah, because it's just I don't know, I don't know, like I've seen a lot of people talking about moving to Ghana and talking about the food and how it's amazing and this and that, but like I don't know, I don't know if it's my palate, because I find that I feel like the palate is not that diverse, like because like my mom's from the Caribbean, so I've been raised with like Caribbean cooking, and for me the
oh
palate
my,
is
I know
much
that food.
wider.
Yes,
So
it is.
I feel like food for me, like, and especially being raised in the UK, like the Caribbean food is, even though there's similarities with African food, West African cooking, definitely there is, but I find that it's that there's more similarities with like South Asian cooking, like food
Right, yeah,
wise.
exactly,
You know, that
yeah,
it's that's
yeah,
probably the closest. So like I've always enjoyed like, you know, South Asian like cooking much more, because
yeah,
the flavor wise the similarities
me
are there.
too. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That was a big Sapana, that was a big fitna in Malaysia. It's like food is just all over, on the street corners, it's just like everywhere.
Hmm.
And I mean, and the food outside where people are actually cooking it is like you wouldn't have no need to go to any type of Western uh, restaurant or anything. And
Yeah.
it, even if you said, okay, well, I love KFC or whatever, it doesn't do no justice. Like for the
Yes.
people in the street,
Yes, of course.
it's just, and it's cheap and it's like delicious,
Yeah.
flavorful, no
Hmm.
MSG, natural ingredients. It's
Yeah.
just like wow,
Hmm.
it's just abundant.
Yeah.
SubhanAllah.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah,
Alhamdulillah.
and healthy too sometimes.
Yes.
Sometimes,
Yes. Yes.
you know. So yes,
Alhamdulillah.
yeah. I'm just, I don't know. Maybe you have to like get all your your spices at least, like sent to you
Yeah, I'm
or
still trying
something.
to discover that. I feel like here, I don't know, like like, you know, having been to like, you know, a couple of other countries, when you go, as you said, there's a spice market, and I've been to many markets here, but I've not seen
Mm.
like really what I would call a spice market. I found that their range is quite limited. Like, you know, you for example, if you're in Morocco, for example, you go to the market and there'll be like bags of
Hundreds
spices,
of,
like
yes, kilo, but
bags. And
right,
you
bag,
go and you
huge
shop.
bag.
I mean,
Yeah,
they don't have that here. So it's like if you're looking for spices, like the closest that I've been able to get to what I want is like Indian like a supermarket where they have like, you know, they're catering for like, you know, people who are coming from India who happen to live here or they're visiting or whatever.
yeah,
So I can find like more of the spices that I'm used to using there. And you know, some of the local shops, they might have spices, but they're coming in these little sachets.
yes, tiny.
And
I
it's,
know what you
yeah, and
mean.
there's
That
mostly
was a
these blend
struggle.
ones as well. So like, you know, you have to kind of pick and mix, and then it, like when you buy all these little packets, it adds up like price wise. You know what I mean? So, it's like these
Yeah,
kind of adjustments. I'm still kind of trying to get to grips with. because I feel like here they, like I said, like the West African cooking is obviously Ghanaian cooking. They don't use as many spices. That's what I've been able to tell, especially by seeing when they cook. You know, when like local people that I know, if you watch them cooking and stuff, they don't use that many things. Like I know, like
Yes.
back home, it's like
Yeah, I
when
know what you
you
mean.
go to the halal shop, you buy your spices. It's like you buy at least 10 different things you're gonna have like in your cupboard. Like I used to have so many jars, but like
Yeah.
here it's like
Yeah.
maybe 2-3 different things.
Wow. So how do you? Yeah, that's always a, you know, like you said, it's trying to pick certain things from different countries is difficult.
Yeah, it's
You
different.
know,
Yeah.
like it was somewhat like that in Malaysia to a degree, because if you don't really like Asian food, then you might have a problem, you know. Like if you just like even finding Italian spices, for example, or herbs, it's like very like it's very expensive. Like you said, those tiny little packs is like enough for like 2 pieces of chicken. You know, it's not gonna do much. But yeah, that's the thing. But when you find, you know, you'll find somebody who is like on the same struggle as you,
Yeah.
then you're like, okay, that's the connection right there. Like
Yeah.
we were looking for cheese. This was a big issue because I'm from like a cheese state in
Cheese.
this state.
Wow, don't
Cheese.
mention cheese here, subhanallah.
They don't do cheese like that. Yeah, we were looking, and then one time we were just like at this I think it's a shop where they sell like bakery items, and there was cheese there. It was just like, wow, they have cheese, like, you know, one kind or 2 kinds, you know, but still it was cheese. It was like mozzarella. Okay, give me a piece. Okay. Yeah, when we found it, we were just like overjoyed.
Alhamdulillah.
And we found that they don't really eat too much like dairy products. So, and then when you find them, it's very expensive, and you know, it's like something you have to plan to buy. Like
Definitely, it's
kind
exactly
of
like
like
that here as well. It's so hard to find cheese, and
like
people don't drink milk or anything like that.
Right, right. Yeah. So you
Which I
have to
found really
probably
strange.
like you had to go to a farm and just get a lot, as much as you can, and please.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, subhanallah.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah,
And see what.
alhamdulillah. The challenges of Hijra.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, it's just what it is. It's what it is. What it, yeah.
Because I suppose like when you're thinking of making Hijra, like those kind of things, I don't know, like it's not really the priority, is it? I suppose. So it's like once you've moved, you start. I think one of the things that helps you when you travel to live, especially in a different country, is that you start to, if you haven't already been doing that before, you start to really learn about what is important for you to have.
Yes, yes.
Especially coming
And
from
I
a
found
Western
that
country.
it's important for me to have my spices. You
Doing
know, you know, even certain things, like even in the house, you know, like or just the environment, you know, like I was trying to say, like I wasn't used to lots of people like that before we came to Egypt. So it was just, it's not that it's the like I just like the country because of like whatever. It's just certain things that it's not suitable to me, that I just really saw that don't work with like us as our temperament, you know, as our you know what I'm saying? Like if you're not like a desert person,
Yeah.
or you don't exactly like if you're not like I'm not an extrovert. So some people like you know what I mean? So if they like see a lot of people, to them it's energy.
Yeah.
They like that. But for me, it's like it sucks my life away.
Yes. Yeah.
Like to just go out and have to deal with all these people all the time. It was exhausting. And so, you know, just certain things you might see, like I really need to be in a quieter place, you know. I need to be in a more family friendly place. I have children, like I need them to be in a place where they can like go outside and play.
Of course.
Because they can't stay in my house like also as a homeschooler, like all day, they got to go outside,
Mm-hmm.
especially boys, you know, so
Mm-hmm.
it's just certain things that you start to see that is important to you that maybe you didn't even think about before. Like, to be honest, when I came to Egypt, I had 3 small children,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, I just assumed, okay, well, they'll go to an Islamic school or something like that. But then I quickly saw that was not going to be an option, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Um, I quickly saw that if I had more children, what is the healthcare like? I needed to be, that's an important thing.
Yeah.
You know, if people have certain health conditions and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that, you need to go where the healthcare is better, you know.
Yes.
Um, it's just certain things that you find out after the fact, you know. Like, but you kind of override it if you don't, if you're focused on one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, I was focused on, okay, I want to learn Arabic, I want to get Quran. So if everything else is like to the side, but as you know, the kids get older, as you get older, and you start to see like, okay, you possibly need to think somewhere else because it might not be suitable to you later on, you know, even as far as your mental health, you know, it's not everywhere is not for everybody, you know. So you
Definitely.
have to consider all that stuff, you know, especially if you like, say for example, a type of sister who really needs to be around other people all the time, like other sisters and stuff like that. And even if you're not, like me personally, I'm not really like that, but people think I am because I do like community stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I, you know, I don't need to be around people a lot, but you do need it sometimes, you know. So if you don't have it at all, it's way different than being able to choose if you want to or not, you know, because you don't have like sisters in your area or something like, you know, like that. And also the kids, you know, finding friends and, you know,
That's a big deal, isn't it?
very important.
Yeah, because I
Yeah,
think
some
that's
people
part of
don't
the
think it, maybe they
integration.
don't think it's important.
Mm.
Yeah, you have to, you know, you have to mix. And unfortunately, when we were in Egypt, we mixed a lot, but we didn't have a lot of, I want to say a lot, we didn't have very, very few local people who were actually like friends,
Mm.
you know. So I thought that was, it was kind of strange because for the amount of time that we stayed there, it was very,
Yes.
very strange because in the other countries, like, it's the first few months we started to meet people, we started to, you know, I mean, they were very helpful to us and
Mm-hmm.
everything, you know, and like the bonds were closer and everything. It's just it's
Yes.
strange, you know. Even here,
Yes.
it's like the whole neighborhood was. But it's like, you know, it's okay. You just have to, you figure it out,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Alhamdulillah.
You get what you get from that place, and then if Allah wants you to go somewhere else, I'm just saying wherever you go, it's just, you know, get what you can get from it, you know. And just I just like maintaining it, you know. Somebody put in the comments, I think we could talk about this because we're in, you talking about make hijra, but
Mm-hmm.
it was so funny. It was, to me, it was hilarious. Somebody put in the comments, brother Omar, how many times are you gonna make hijra?
Wow. Mashallah.
Because, you know, it seems like, obviously they don't see the background, but it seems like, okay, you live this country, you live in this country,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, the thing is maintaining it,
Of
because
course.
for us it was never an option to return back
Mm-hmm.
to the States. It was never like on the table. And
Mm-hmm.
if it was on the table, it was on a clear edge falling off the end of the table. You know what
Right.
I mean? So
Yes.
it wasn't necessarily really on it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, you do have situations where people have to go back, and there's so many cases of that and the reasons why. And some of them really want to come back and some do,
Yes.
with a different, you know, mind frame of like, I don't care what happens. I'm more prepared, you know. um, I'm not, it doesn't matter if I need to switch countries, it's still a Muslim country, you still have the same
Exactly.
elements
Yeah.
regardless, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So even if it's a place like, you know, that has, it's just it's a step better than where you were,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Like you said, you're in Ghana, so of course I think it's maybe better for you than the UK. Like,
Yeah, I think it
like,
is. I mean, there's a lot of
okay,
things here that I can complain about, believe me, but it's still for me better. I
yeah,
don't miss the UK. You know, like people ask me, do
yeah,
I miss it? And it's just like, well, I don't, because I think, you know, if you're somebody who's very attached to the conveniences of the West, then, you know, you will
right,
miss it because you're attached to those things. But
yeah,
I think that as Muslims, these are the things that, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want us to be attached to, because that is like an
right,
attachment to the dunya. It's like you need to try to,
yeah.
you know, free
And
yourself from those
yeah,
things.
yeah, and the thing is, just find a lot of the interesting part about that is, even when you go to other places, if you don't even, what say, you don't want those things, you don't want those things that's like from the West. If Allah wants it for you, you're gonna have it regardless of whatever
Exactly.
Muslim country you live in. You know, if you're meant to live in a house in a villa or whatever, that's what you're gonna have, even if you live in a Muslim world. It doesn't restrict your risk. Okay,
Exactly.
so it's just like that too. I feel like, you know, I don't miss nothing there except for my family, you know.
Yes,
And I
yeah.
always tell them that I really just miss my family. Alhamdulillah, some of them were able to visit and they saw the benefits.
Yes.
And I just pray that they will be able to come back and stay, because they were like, wow, like you guys, you don't know how much, you know, you're missing, you know, like on a negative side, you don't know what you missed.
Mm,
And I'm like, I don't need to know. I can
yes,
see
of
what I
course.
missed.
Yeah,
I
subhanAllah.
can see it in the, you know, I can see it with
Yes, of course.
people, with the times and everything. You know, I'm grateful that Allah has allowed us to miss those things. You
Absolutely.
know, so
Alhamdulillah.
yeah,
Alhamdulillah. Definitely. There's certain things that, you know, obviously like there's a lot going on at the moment. And I know that these things, it wouldn't be possible for it to happen here. Like, I would be
no,
like the
no,
mentality of the
never.
people, like here,
Like
these,
you
like,
question what a woman or a man is,
yeah,
like basic
subhanAllah.
stuff, like
Yeah, it's just like,
yeah,
yeah.
like
Because
basically,
often people
yeah.
ask me, oh, you know, why don't you want to go back to the UK? Why are you living here? Why you want to come to Ghana? And when I start telling them like what's happening in the UK,
They don't really want to
they,
know.
they look
I
at
don't
me
think they really want to
completely
know.
shocked. Like, you know, it's almost like they
It's a
don't
book
believe.
about why.
Yeah, subhanAllah.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
So inshallah, we need to. We've been chatting for a good while now. Alhamdulillah.
yeah,
Okay, right. Let's wind down now, inshallah, because I'm sure you've got a lot of things to be getting on with. Mashallah.
yeah.
Okay, so what kind of advice would you give to sisters who would like to wear the niqab but they don't have the confidence?
Mm. You said they don't have what? I'm sorry, I didn't hear
The
the last word
confidence.
you
They don't
said.
feel confident.
Oh, confidence.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Um, I would say make istikhara, of course, always. Make istikhara, make dua. Um, look into your reasons why you're doing it. You know, sincerely look at the main core reasons of why you're looking into it, doing it. Um, if you're the type of sister who needs support, then find it. You know, ask Allah to give it to you. Also, don't worry about what other people think, because at the end of the day, it's your decision and you don't need their approval.
No, alhamdulillah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But like, what, like, have you met sisters who, like, I don't know, like in your time, have you met sisters who wanted to wear the niqab but they're not allowed to wear it? They've been prevented for some reason, or
Yes, yes, I have. I have
Mhm,
met a lot of people. Yeah, sometimes it's kind of, to me, it's when I first encountered that, it was strange, because
mhm,
sometimes it would be like their parents or their husband, you
mhm,
know, or their kids, or it wouldn't necessarily be the society. So I'm
mm,
like, wow, that's a lot. Because if you know, like you live at home, so you know, it's like they're all against what you, and sometimes they're Muslims, you know,
yes,
unfortunately.
yeah,
So it's like you have to fight people on a daily basis to
mhm,
do something that Allah said is okay to do, you know. So I don't know, but may Allah help them, you know, and
mm, amen.
uh, you know, soften their families' hearts and open their eyes to the situation, because, you know, it's something, again, that it's affecting you. They might think it's just only about, like, it's affecting them, but it doesn't. It's affecting the person who's making a decision.
Yes,
you
of
know?
course. Yes, and what about sisters who've been forced?
I've seen that, but it's to a lesser degree. The ones who I wouldn't say forced, because okay, like, for example, if you have a scenario where the husband is like, he doesn't say he wants you to wear it, but he's like, you have to wear it. He doesn't give her any kind of, you know,
Option.
He's just saying, yeah, like, obey your husband, you have to wear
Yes,
it. I'm like,
yes.
wow, you know, that's a huge fitna. But again, if I've seen that when you try to force people to do stuff they don't really want to do,
Of course.
and they don't believe it's even like wajib for them to do, that's when you see people outside where, okay, my husband told me to wear it, but guess what? It's flipped up every time I go outside, because I'm really not
committed, of
I'm
course.
not doing this.
Yeah.
Right. So it's going to be a lot of defiance, if you want to say, and if you want to say now she's become disobedient or whatever, but it's something you can't force nobody to really do, you know, like in their heart. So, I mean, even when it comes to people who are from cultures where they may seem like they have to force the women, or they try to kind of I guess say force in a way where, like, shame them into do it.
Yeah, like peer pressure kind of thing.
Yeah, then they end up taking it off, or end up hating it, or end up taking all their hijab off, which is way more important to me than the niqab. Like, but
course, yeah.
now you encourage them to take everything off, you know.
Yeah. Yes. So okay, so finally, I'll ask, what does the niqab mean to you?
Wow, that's interesting. I don't, like I said, I don't really think about it like that. And maybe in the beginning, okay, like when I first started wearing it, what did it mean to me was like a special honor that the Prophet Sallallahu wives used to wear, you know, and you know, something that other Muslim sisters could you know, take as an example. But as far as, yeah, like honor and itself, hijab is an honor. So it's like, you know, it's it's an extra reward possible for you and your intention. You know? So I would say maybe honor and reward.
Alhamdulillah. So like, because I mean, you've been wearing it for like more than 20 years now. So would you say that it's like, it's just normal for you to like obviously wear it?
Yeah, I don't think about it. Yeah, like it's just like, okay, you know, when you get your clothes ready to go out, it's just, I mean, I'm not trying to, I don't want to at the same time, you know, like make it less valuable. Like, it's not like you just put it on your socks or whatever, but you know, I think we should also, the question actually made me think more about daily intentional wearing it, because I don't think about it like it too much. But if we really thought about all this time when we get dressed to go outside, well, even if you don't wear the cup, to be honest, like if you know, you're covered properly, every day you're doing ibadah. So every time you choose to go outside and obey Allah, you should take honor in the reward that you get for obeying your Lord, you know. So that's just something that, like, it's very, we have to think about, like, you know, you're doing something good, Allah will reward you, inshallah. Actually, no, not inshallah. He promises that he will reward the ones who do good, you know, who believe and do good. So just know that this is something every day that you're choosing to do that that's for Allah.
Of course, and absolutely, I think there's you know, a beneficial point there, and like, you know, what you said about it being, it's just a normal something for you, so you don't really think about it. I think that points to how easy it can actually be to do. You know, obviously it can be something which is difficult, but you know, it's something that when you do something for the sake of Allah, he puts the ease in it for you. So now it's like, it's just become like something which is second nature. You feel that, you know, it's not something that you question or you have to think about, like, you know, like for sisters who are thinking of wearing, or they're just starting wearing it, it's something that, you know, it's their kind of main, maybe something that's, you know, their main thought processes right now. They're really thinking a lot about it and all the implications of wearing it. Whereas when you've been wearing it for a certain amount of time, it just becomes, well, you know, this is what it is. That's my clothes. That's how I dress. That's how I leave the house.
Yeah.
So
The
it's an
biggest fear
automatic.
is actually, the biggest fear is like if somebody said I can't, you know, like if I went somewhere and said, like for example, to travel somewhere and they're like, you have to take it off to whatever, or to do, you know, that's like an actual like source of like anxiety, you know.
Yeah.
Like, no, you can't, no. Like, I don't even think about that, because that's I'm not, no, I'm not doing that,
Alhamdulillah.
you know.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair, sister, for talking to me
Oh,
today.
yeah,
Really,
yeah, it was enjoyable.
yeah,
I know I
alhamdulillah.
told you before this I was tired, but you know, you woke me up. I mean, you know,
Alhamdulillah.
and not in a bad way, but it was a good.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. I hope the sisters, you know, benefit, and you know, I watch your channel. I'm a fan, you know.
Oh,
So,
mashallah, jazakallah khair. That's nice to hear.
yeah, I love it. I'm like, you know, wow, this is because if people, if you know, you see it, it's not just like uh, how do you say? You ever saw? I don't know if it was on. I don't know if it's a book or I can't remember if it's a show, but it's kind of like behind the veil, you know. It's
Right.
like,
Okay.
yes, we're real people,
Yeah.
right? All
Yes.
types of different sisters from all the places, you know, where we can relate to each other as all types of different things, you know. So, you know, it's just not about like, oh, because you wear niqab, but we do have an interesting dynamic, you know, in society. So it is what it is.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. And I think that was one of my objectives with you know, starting the channel in the first place. It's quite niche, you know, so it's maybe it's not going to appeal to a wide range of people, but you know, it is what it is. And alhamdulillah, but I'm a big fan of the Make Hijra channel. Actually, I think it's seriously underrated, especially for you know, because I've always known like so many Muslims who want to make hijrah, and it's like the information that's been given in that your podcast, mashallah, it's really beneficial, because you know, for anybody who wants to know about traveling to actually live in another country, there's one thing, like, you know, traveling someplace to visit for holidays, not the same as going to live there, you know, and the experiences that you
Exactly.
from different sisters and the brothers as well is really beneficial and informative. You get a really kind of really good perspective. So yeah, I think that's alhamdulillah, I think it's quite an really underrated channel, actually, especially like for Muslims. I don't know, like if inshallah it will grow. May Allah put barakah in it, because I think a lot of Muslims need that channel, like just for the information that's being given out there, basically, especially in times like what we're living in now. People need to know what options they have. So yeah, alhamdulillah.
Yes, and how to do it. Like, inshallah, we have a lot more content to add to that, because just it's so many aspects of it, you know, how to do it, you know, especially on the women's side too. Like, it's not just like, you know, pack your stuff and leave. It's a process,
Yes,
you know.
of course.
It's a process, especially when you have kids and stuff. Like, it's a lot, but you know, Allah Mustaan.
Alhamdulillah.
We'll get it together.
Alhamdulillah. So inshallah, till next time, I hope that I can talk to you another time about other things, maybe, inshallah.
Yes.
So barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam.